Back with Grand Tactician Civil War Union Campaign. So where we left off the last episode, we had just finished fighting the Battle of Lynchburg, where we had taken Lynchburg. The Army of Northern Virginia had retreated back away from Richmond and Petersburg. The Army of the Potomac was still north of the James. The Confederates came back north and took Lynchburg, whereupon we sent the Army of the Potomac after them and had a battle there, which took up the last two episodes. And after that victory, after that Union victory, the Confederates have continued to retreat south. So just a quick flying around the various theaters, seeing what's going on. Not much happening in the West. Basically what I'm doing here, it's kind of slow and deliberate, but I'm kind of waiting for these forts to finish before sending the Army of the Tennessee west toward what I think is the Army of West Tennessee, Confederate Army, and eventually move on Memphis and Corinth. But I want those forts in place first, so that Nashville can at least delay being taken if the Army of Tennessee down here at Chattanooga starts moving up, while this corps has moved out. I would also kind of like for the Ohio Army to finish its job of chasing down Zollicoffer, and then come on over here and become the third corps of the Army of the Tennessee. As we have seen, this corps, Zollicoffer, which is the single corps in the Army of Mississippi, had come up here into eastern Kentucky and has been kind of leading Lyon's Army of the Ohio on a little bit of a chase around eastern Kentucky. Actually slightly larger than Lyon's army, but chose to retreat rather than engage when I tried to engage him over here at Paintville. Now chase him over to this position just north of the Cumberland Gap, which is here, where he's trying to build another base, putting down a supply depot. Lyon will come down and engage him, but I'm kind of thinking I may just let him build that supply depot first. Save me the trouble of having to do it. Meanwhile, McClellan's Appalachian Army had kind of outrun its telegraph connectivity. Had forgotten to build telegraph stations along his route. So he's finished this telegraph station here at Abingdon. So he's ready to move back down the valley toward Knoxville. This is the upper, I believe this is the Tennessee. Yeah. Their squadron is still just watching the Army of Tennessee here. They haven't moved from Chattanooga. Once McClellan comes down here and occupies Knoxville, they may move. But I think, this force is up to 48,000. He's gotten some more forces from somewhere. I never saw a message stating the outcome. However, our ironclad squadron, where did they go? Now here they are. Did complete their engagement of this fort down here at Cape Hatteras. Not successfully. They took 7 ships there. 3 were sunk, and they basically just fell to red readiness and retreated back up to Norfolk. This is now a 4-ship squadron. So over the course of this campaign, I think at the beginning or in one of the early episodes, I said I'd never had much luck with Navy against forts, that they just normally get trashed, but I hadn't tried really strong forces, ironclad forces. So I've tried that several times in this campaign, both here with these ironclad monitors and also on the rivers with ironclad river gunboats. And basically my takeaway is it's possible. Naval forces can reduce a fort to 0. They can also still lose and be forced to retreat with losses. And even when they win, it takes quite a while and you lose ships. And the types of ships that it takes to do it, the ironclads, they're resource intensive and they take a long time to build. So, is it an effective way? Yes, in that it can work. It doesn't seem to me a very resource efficient way to address forts. So I would say that it's probably not something I'll be doing a lot of in the future, meaning future campaigns. I do still have an ironclad river fleet that I've built over on the Mississippi that I intend to use against a fort. I'll do that. And maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. So instead of fooling around with this ironclad squadron further against these coastal forts, I am just going to take the Chesapeake Army under Smith, and I'm just going to march him down and take this area from the landward side and then go on down and capture Wilmington the old-fashioned way. And I think he can do that now because of the progress we've made in central and now southern Virginia. So they are building a new supply depot, kind of building a new base here near Danville. But other than that, the Confederate forces, the Army of Northern Virginia, have pretty much pulled almost all the way down into North Carolina. And the next geographical objective, town, would be Raleigh. We've got several crossings of the Roanoke River here that kind of converge on Raleigh. And so my plan is to bring the 5 corps of the Potomac Army across the Roanoke here, basically on a front from this crossing over to this crossing. And then we'll kind of move on a front this way toward Raleigh, and I would expect that we will engage the Confederate forces in this area once more. See how we're doing on our policy. I think we're working on government funding still. Yeah, the later policies start taking longer and longer. Had already selected this, but we've got over 2 months until this policy is complete. Third Corps temporarily has got a bit of attrition going on. I think that's mainly just because he came out of battle. And these forces, the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Corps especially, have seen enough combat over this campaign. They've got a lot of multiple starred elite units, which means, like look at the 3rd Corps, there's 9. There's 9 units that aren't happy with their commanders. And a lot of those commanders are pretty good. So there's no one in the pool there to replace them with better stats. It just doesn't exist. So they're just going to have to be unhappy. But with the proximity to the Army commander and the telegraph connectivity, those far, far outweigh the relatively small unhappy modifier. So it's a little irritating at the mechanic where the units kind of outstrip the leaders in their development to the point where they don't consider any leader, really, any available leader, to be worthy of them. But in the big picture, it's really not that big a deal. It's just something you just live with in the current iteration of the game. Okay, so let's, and also now that this, the route now south pretty much covers the right flank of the army. The Shenandoah army is basically free now to leave the Shenandoah. This is all kind of rear area now, safely in Union hands. So I think the thing to do with the Shenandoah army is move Patrick over this way. I don't think he's needed over here anymore. Originally he was here to build a supply depot in this area, but we captured a Confederate one here. And we've also got a depot here at Weldon Bridge and a depot here. Basically his purpose here is ended, so I think I'm going to bring him over this way. He may wind up being useful further west as we hem in Zollicoffer, and maybe he'll actually take the railroad down this way. Let's see if he does. I feel like there's got to be a trick to getting him to use the railroad. Sometimes they do it, a lot of times they don't. And that actually works out because I've been thinking, if Lyon comes down and engages Zollicoffer, and Zollicoffer, whether there's a battle or not, if that results in Zollicoffer retreating, and he tries to retreat toward a Confederate-owned infrastructure point, his obvious choice is this Strawberry Plains Bridge. That seems closest, but he may try to go back to Paintville, because now that forces have moved away from Paintville, either it has reverted to, well, there we go again. The text says it is Union. And because of that icon, well, it looks like there's a little blue. Maybe that is a Union town. But the coal mines apparently are still Confederate. In any case, the thought occurs to me that Zollicoffer might retreat, in quotation marks, back up here into eastern Kentucky instead of going down south. If that happens, I had been reluctant to move McClellan toward Knoxville, thinking he may have to cover this area to help box Zollicoffer in. But now Patrick can do that. And McClellan can head on down. I don't want to send him all the way straight to Knoxville. Let's send him about here and see what his supply situation is. Right now, where is his supply coming from right now? Well, it's not showing. He's getting 100% supply from somewhere, but it's not showing the supply. Let me just click off of him first. Click on something else. Now if I re-click him. Yeah. I don't know where he's getting his supply from. And he's not sitting right on a point where it wouldn't be visible. That may just be because I haven't unpaused time yet. But he's within range of this supply depot, so I'm guessing that's probably where he's getting his supply from. But he might be getting everything he needs straight from Abingdon. Move him down to Jonesboro and see what his supply situation is here. I'm not going to disturb Zollicoffer for the moment. I'm going to wait for that supply depot to build. Okay, I think that covers the Appalachians and the West. Let's give orders to the Army of the Potomac. I'm going to keep the HQ kind of here in the middle so everything is within its radius. Let's move the 2nd Corps to Weldon. Let's move the 5th Corps to this crossing. We'll let Patterson kind of... I can't click on him. Patterson took the brunt of the fighting in the Battle of Lynchburg, so he's basically just kind of hanging out here, getting his act back together after that battle. His Corps did a great job there, I gotta say. Let's move the 1st Corps up to this crossing. We'll move the 4th Corps with them. Okay, let's get some time rolling. Oh. Want to get Smith moving. Should be in decent supply through here. There's a depot here and with the town of Winton here. He should be able to get as far as this town of Plymouth. Let's move him here and see what his supply situation is. Oh, he's actually going to go seaboard. That's fine. Just going to leave this Confederate fort alone. It's smoking because of the battle that it had with the ironclads. That it resisted. It's still there. But he's not really hurting anything. He's not guarding an approach to a port. The nearest port is up here at Elizabeth City. It's ours. The ironclads almost beat it down. It's not really guarding an important spot, really. and it's soon going to be completely out of supply. I'm just going to bypass them. Okay, these moving cores are having some supply issues. I may have to get down here and build some more darn depots. Okay, not terribly bad. Build another depot to support his move further south. Yeah, these guys aren't getting enough supply. I'm going to move 4th Corps here. Maybe he can go by the river. Maybe he can draw a supply from this depot along the railroad track and lessen the pressure on these points over here for supply. Maybe. Nope, no river. He's just marching along. Shenandoah's okay. Appalachian's okay. Let's move McClellan to about here. Okay, he has finished building the London depot. So let's go get ourselves some food. I'm kind of expecting that there won't be a battle. I think Zollicoffer will retreat again. But I'm just kind of curious in what direction he retreats. He's got McClellan coming up behind him now. In fact, I don't want McClellan to move any further right now. He's getting fully supplied by the town of, I think that's Jonesboro. But I want this bridge to stay Confederate. I want Zollicoffer to have an incentive to come down this way, not go up to Paineville. Patrick getting all of his supply from Abingdon. He is getting some from the depot as well. He's fine where he is. Patrick can actually come up to this position and be a little closer in case he needs to chase Zollicoffer over here. Okay, Zollicoffer is retreating. Apparently we can't see where he's retreating to. I don't think there's anything in this depot yet. Oh yeah, there is. Wow. Nice. Okay, here we go. Well, looks like France is beating up on Mexico pretty good. Don't want to go too far in front of this supply depot. I want to stay in range of it, but let's move Lion up to Cumberland Gap. Okay, now we can push McClellan down. Here's one of these things. Icon is showing blue. The text is still reading Confederacy. Confederate forces in this area do have these two routes across the mountains. I would prefer that they not take those and get back up into this valley. A fort here would be ideal, but I also don't want to unnecessarily expose Patrick. I'm going to have Patrick build a fort here guarding this supply depot. When he's done with that, then back down to Jonesboro and a fort here. Maybe. Depends on how the war is gone by then. And we apparently don't have eyes on Zollicoffer anymore. I'm going to go ahead and have Lion come on straight down into Knoxville. With McClellan close enough to support if a battle occurs. Okay, we've got the Potomac Army pretty much in position. How is Patterson? Patterson's readiness is good. His supplies back up. First Corps is not in a good supply situation. I'm just going to have to build another depot. Fourth is not in good shape. Fifth is not in good shape. Second Corps is fine. I think we need to get our logistics in order before we move on south. And these all cost money, right? Some of these back up here we just don't need anymore. Just don't need them. I am going to abandon Manassas Junction and Fredericksburg. Oh, wrong one. That was the I hit the wrong button. Okay. And I don't think we need Winchester anymore. main Confederate Army. I think it's still called the Army of Northern Virginia, massing here by Lynchburg. And I'm not moving the Third Corps up because there's not enough logistics along this river to support the corps that are already there. So he's just going to stay where he is for now. Okay, Knoxville is taken. I'm going to move Lyon down here, and I'm going to put a fort here near this bridge. Oh. Okay, the supply situation in both of these armies just turned to crap. Figures. Okay, so Lyon's going to go fortify this river crossing here at Loudon Bridge. Loudon. Or not. He may run right into Zollicoffer. Who has not shown any appetite for fighting so far. Yep, there he goes. But he's going to go down there and combine with the Army of Tennessee. That's going to turn it into a pretty sizable cluster of forces. Let's get... we need a supply depot here. They have also outrun their telegraph. Again. It's going to build a telegraph here. I don't know if it may be too far to connect. Yeah, I can't find a spot for it. And that may not be because there's unsuitable terrain. It may be because there's nothing for it to connect to. Okay, so these two forts are done, though. Just pause for a second. It's forts Cheatham and Harland. Just give them a battery apiece. I think I mentioned this before. I used to put like a brigade in these forts. That's a lot of men. And forts draw supply just like field forces do. Less supply, I think, at least in terms of provisions, for a artillery brigade. But if I understand correctly, I may not, but if I understand correctly, it's the artillery which is the biggest determinant of combat strength in a siege. And so I think I get more bang for the buck with an artillery battery instead of a brigade, infantry brigade in these forts. That's why I'm giving each one of them a little bit extra artillery when I build them. And it is not intended to successfully defend forever and ever and ever. It's basically there as a speed bump, which gives our field forces a little bit extra time to react if necessary. And Zollicoffer has retreated past the Army of Tennessee to here and is entrenching. Okay, that's shaping up. How's Smith doing? Smith is back up to 100%. Drawing a little bit of supply from this depot. Continue on down. To New Bern and whatever fort this is. Supply situation is getting a little bit better along the Potomac front, the Army of the Potomac's front. This is not the Potomac, this is the Roanoke. I'm just going to have Patrick come down here, extend this telegraph line. Once he builds that, I think McClellan will be able to extend the line to Knoxville. Credit rating is holding steady. And here we go. Smith is besieging Fort Thompson in North Carolina. Very heavily in his favor. He does have the siege train perk. I didn't realize he had another perk available. I think engineer mechanic makes sense for this army. Okay, made short work of Fort Thompson. and his supply situation is looking okay, but it's not 100%. And he may be down here on Fort Macon for a while. A lot of these forts, the ones that are built during the game, and I think some of the at start forts too, are smaller and with a max capacity of 5,000. But a lot of these pre-war heavily developed forts, they're a tougher nut to crack. They have a capacity of 1,000 and a larger garrison. So that siege might take a while. So here we go again with yet another supply depot. Okay, all these cores are back up to 100% now. Army of Tennessee can begin to move. Let's bring 2nd Corps over to about where 1st Corps is. Move the headquarters. And let's move the 1st Corps to Jackson. I've noticed that they can be an offensive stance, but once they engage in a fort siege, when they come out of it, they're back into defensive. Some historical flavor from New Zealand, apparently. And he is still just barely in telegraph range from Weldon. I think maybe he ought to. Once he moves on Fort Macon, he won't be, though. These depots are built now, so McClellan and Lyon ought to get their supply situation in better shape pretty soon. Well, I'm seeing a telegraph connection here toward McClellan, but McClellan is not showing that that he is connected. This might be completely superfluous to build this telegraph. In Jonesboro. Let me just turn off the supply for a second. Yeah, I don't know. You see this blue line here indicating that there is a connection to McClellan, but he does not have the icon in his situation, and he does not have the telegraph morale bonus. Well, and I had put Patrick here to build a stupid fort guarding this road over the mountains. Completely forgot why I had done that and moved him down here to build a telegraph instead. Okay, so basically just a bunch of moves on the campaign map. It's been a little bit slow, probably not the most exciting episode, but we've got we got stuff going on. Smith has moved all the way from Norfolk down, has taken one fort, is preparing to take Morehead City and Fort Macon, and from here he can move and do the same to Wilmington, which is a pretty important city. Army of the Potomac has come up and reestablished logistics on the Roanoke River line, so they're in position now to re-engage the Army of Northern Virginia again at Danville. Pretty much come down out of the Shenandoah across the Appalachian area here, and now we've got two armies operating in the three armies, Patrick, McClellan, and Lyon, operating in the upper Tennessee Valley. It almost makes sense to combine these and make them corps in a larger army now, and have them tackle both the Army of Mississippi and the Army of Tennessee. That's a thought. Once they get their supply in order. We've taken Knoxville, which is another major town or city. So that has further hurt Confederate national morale. And the Army of Tennessee, Army of the Tennessee, is finally moving west on Fry's Corps and Fort Pillow and Memphis. And that will do for this episode. Thank you very much for watching.